All right, so this is going to be a very, this is a casual one. I mean, aren't they all? Let me just get my camera thing going. So it's the day after the Super Bowl, and it is early morning. I've been in here since, I've been in here since 7 o'clock this morning. It's now 9, and everything is all dialed up as far as for a regular session day. Flying solo today, working on some new. I'm gonna try and show you guys some of my stuff that I do on a slow down the quick track. Today is going to be a little quick run through on distortion. How much distortion? I think there's some big misconceptions out there as to how much distortion is on every element of a track, as far as distorted guitars, distorted drums, distorted bass, distorted vocals, harmonic distortion on the mix. So when I was just playing before, it was like, this is what's commonly known as distortion. And then there's all different levels depending on what sort of thing you're looking for. And there's different ways to get distortion and different types of distortion, even out of the same plug-in or the same box, which a lot of people tend to sort of forget, or maybe they don't understand the reality that you can get different tones out of the same thing. Like right now, I'm just playing just some with a Stratocaster, with just some regular DiMarzio pickups. I don't think they're even, yeah, they are noise canceling. So this has like a real nice mellow, what some would call transparent overdrive sound. I don't know, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to hear this clearly. I'm not going through all that bit where, like, you know, you're going to hear it in stereo through my system and all that. Maybe somewhere down the line when I'm making gazillions of dollars on YouTube and I get motivated. But for right now, this is for information purposes only. So this is considered like the transparent overdrive or distortion. You'll be surprised to know, if you're a guitar player, that is coming from a big muff, electro-harmonics, which could go up to this, which would be commonly known. Lots of gain. It's all controlled by touch and output of the guitar. So same for on tracks. When I'm working on a mix or a production, I think people that aren't around a lot of different productions or haven't been around a lot of mix deals or recording situations, they're not really aware of how much distortion is on things or how much distortion is not on things. So to me, there seems to be a big misconception that that guitars are, particularly in rock, you know, the goal in a lot of ways is to have the big distorted guitars. And as it turns out, the bigger the guitars, the less distorted they tend to be. You know, most guys, especially when they're first starting out, want to crank up the gain on their amplifier or crank up the gain on their overdrive / distortion pedal, and they go way beyond anything that's actually usable. The signal actually gets, the tone actually gets smaller the more distorted it gets. Smaller meaning, I mean, there's less dynamic range, excuse me, because it's so compressed with distortion, and it's not as big. And the impression to the ear is big as opposed to something that's super dense and compressed. Same thing for, let me just get a sip. Same thing for vocals. I mean, I think the misconception is that vocals are super squeaky clean, and actually they're not. We're constantly adding little bits of compression, which results in some harmonic distortion. There's the obvious moments when you put literally distortion on the vocal for an effect, but for a vocal to sound natural, there has to be a certain amount of there's a certain amount of built-in distortion that's coming from, and I just touched my mic, that comes from your vocal cords themselves. There's like a certain vibrational thing, and that's some artists, an example would be like Bryan Adams. He can give you that rasp, which a lot of people would sort of perceive as distortion. It's not, but it is a distorted vocal tone in a lot of ways. So anyway, you could take like someone who's like got the cleanest vocal in the world, like an Adele. I just had to do a track for someone, and they wanted a bit of an Adele sound. Let's just say they were referencing Adele, and if you listen to some of Adele, I guess this was from her first record. There's a lot of harmonic distortion going on there, and I don't know whether it's because she was a smoker. Maybe she had a few drinks at some point in her life. Maybe she oversang a lot and sort of was hurting her voice, because you can hear the reediness and the, for lack of a better word, distortion in the vocal. But when you put it in the track and there's some reverb and other instrumentation sucking up some of the frequencies, to the average person, they're not going to say like, oh, that sounds distorted. Speaking about vocals and the Super Bowl, I guess I would be remiss. I was surprised to see Alicia Keys at halftime, and I don't know, for the 9 millionth time I've heard that piano intro that I recorded. I think that thing will follow me to the end of my days, the If I Ain't Got You piano, which was a Yamaha piano at Campo Studios, and I don't know, I think I was using two 414s at the time, or two U87 Neumanns. But anyway, she had a little bit of a crack in the beginning of her performance, and knowing her and knowing what's, I mean, listen, it's 24 years later, and it's 20 years later, and she's, trying to belt out something that she did when she was, I don't know, 21 or something like that, and going for it in front of a big stadium filled with people. Probably, I don't know if she warmed up, or maybe she warmed up too much. I mean, she had a tendency to sing a lot when I was around her, and it was a crack, and unfortunately that's the way when there's, I don't know, is there 1 billion people that watch the Super Bowl? Or 100 million? It's somewhat unfortunate, but hey, it was real. That she wasn't lip syncing. I think Usher was here and there. I think Ludacris was probably live. I know that Little John was definitely live. Those are difficult things to do, though, because, they rehearse in the stadium. There's no one in there. It's kind of hectic. You just go for it. But anyway, I digress. This too shall pass for her. If anything, it'll be somewhat of a an infamous YouTube meme, and what are you going to do? There's worse things that could happen. I mean, there's worse things. You could be Usher and you could take your shirt off, as, you know, for what God knows, whatever reason he did. And you could spend more time worrying about your roller skating than, you know, writing a decent tune. I don't really get the whole mega choreography thing, which is literally the same choreography every time. I'm rambling. This is like a Monday morning ramble. Maybe this will be a new thing where I just come into the studio, get situated. I'm working on this track. Let's see if you can hear that. I'm almost done with the mix. That delay is still going. Here's a perfect example. Here's a guitar that was recorded with some distortion. And some pickup hum too, because I believe it was the P90 in my little ES125 copy. So anyway, here. Let's see. See if we can see that it's playing. I'll just stand. So this is what it sounds like in the track, and I'll skip forward to where it's in the track. If you notice, only one punch in, or maybe two, and then I copied one thing. So there's a little bit of distortion on that. Here's a little bit of the drum bus. Now this has some distortion, harmonic distortion. And it also has this new little gadget that I like, is this Sound City Studios emulation, which, why don't we hear it now? Oh, because the drums dropped. Here we back in. That's one portion of the drum loop kind of thing. And then coming up, there'll be the second one added to it. I wish this would just, there we go. Maybe we could turn that part off at some point. So yeah, this is the Sound City thing, which, as you can hear, does a lot. That's without it. And this is with it. Anyway, then there's the bass, as I'm getting further into my harmonic distortion thing. Here's bass. This was recorded with a direct with an MXR Dynacomp compressor and the original Sansamp Classic, which you know, has a bass setting, and you know, it's flat wound strings on a P bass, and there's just enough hair, which sometimes we refer to as distortion, or distortion sometimes we refer to as hair. There's just enough to make it sit in the track. And then I'll look, I have filter freak on some things. I have distressor on the bass, so that's going to give you some more distortion. Let's see if we can get it to look at that. There you go. And then there's like some distortion on that plugin. Harmonic distortion, not like, you know, foot pedal distortion or amplifier distortion. So we're going into a lot. I wonder how many left the channel right now, as far as like, oh, okay, this guy is just like, what am I getting out of this today? Well, hopefully you're getting the reality that you need to experiment with different levels of harmonic distortion on different things. Like I said, the vocal is probably a lot more distorted than you think it is. The guitars are a lot cleaner than you think they are, even if they are distorted guitars. I'm not really a big fan of putting a distorted device on acoustic guitars, but it is a thing. And then there's the concept of recording an acoustic guitar with a pickup in the sound hole, going to an amp, and then just miking it with like some non-fancy mic, like a Shure SM57 or Shure 57. Is it SM? No, the SM7 is. So it's a Shure 57 or like a Beta 57. You put that in front of a microphone, in front of a guitar amplifier, but you're playing an acoustic guitar through it. So you're going to get some speaker distortion. You're going to get a little bit of the distortion from the amplifier preamp section and output section. And you won't get that classic or usually expected stock acoustic guitar sound. You'll get something with a little more texture. Someone that is known to have done that frequently is Daniel Lanois. Daniel Lanois of YouTube, Peter Gabriel, Emmylou Harris, Bob Dylan fame, as far as production goes. These are little tricks of the trade you pick up as you go along, and you experiment and you try and find ways to do them yourself and find what works for you, as we all do. It's a Monday morning. I am about to make yet another cup of coffee. I don't know. Do I sound wound up? I'm not wound up. I'm a little worn out. I watched that damn game until about 11 o'clock at night, and I was a little disappointed. I wanted San Francisco to win for whatever reason. Maybe I was a little on the anti-Swiftie thing, the anti-Swiftie Kelsey thing. I'm not going to get into that, but I don't even know Taylor Swift. Never met her, but I'm a little tired of seeing the whole routine. I don't know. So anyway, congrats to the Chiefs fans and the people that bet on the Chiefs. Isn't it weird that the game went to overtime and that brought the score eventually up to 25-22, which was 47 points, and the betting, which I don't do, the betting was over under 46.5, and at the last moment it went to 47. So some people were quite unhappy and others were quite happy, I would imagine. So anyway, I'm going to try and get into putting this track up today. Let's see. There's one cool section. Oops. I don't know who's calling me now, but fucking WhatsApp. I'm going to have to cut that out. I thought I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. WhatsApp somehow breaks through, maybe because it's coming from out of the country. So I'm going to go through eventually the pedal board. I'll try and show you some of that, do some actual B-roll, which would be fun for me. And I'll get further into the harmonic distortion thing going down the line, but I wanted to put it out there that like it's a thing of one of the many gazillion things that we have to deal with in making tracks and doing music production recording and wondering why something doesn't sit and why it does sit in the mix. A lot of times it comes down to a little bit of harmonic distortion and a little bit of compression and some EQ. And here's the shocking news is that a lot of times it's just balance. It just comes down to, you know, is that too loud in the mix or is it not loud enough in the mix? And the answer, the big trick on that is turn it up. If it feels too loud, turn it down. Okay, I figured out how to at least show you a little bit what I was talking about. So you got your harmonic distortion over here that I'm adding, and you know, you add that, you get that by whatever amount of compression you're hitting things with, how fast the attack is, how slow the release is, or fast the release is. And then you have your different elements that have their own distortion. I'm trying to think if this one has any phaser compression. I mean, there's some distortion coming from the suitcase preamplifier thing on this. I guess you would say the Electra 88, whatever the hell that is. Is that a Wurlitzer? I don't remember. And let's see, here's that track. I don't know if this is going to work. But yeah, there's a lot of grit on this. What's adding the grit? Probably a little bit of everything, especially in the amplifier section. So what pedals do they have on here? A little bit of compression up front. This is kind of like a Dynacomp. And then they have even more limiting. So anyway, you can hear, now what does that sound like in the mix? I'll solo it with the drums. It's kind of fun. I don't know what this is going to sound like through my lavalier, but it is what it is. All right.